And on Wednesday, February 14th, happy Valentine's Day. You're all my Valentines. I'm BVG. It's the 359, episode 356. And here's Alfred and Roger Cheng.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Brian, you told me I was your Valentine.
You're all my Valentine.
Way to be politically safe
I am
there.
betrayed.
All right, so we're going to be talking about... Dude, watch your chair, man.
Yep.
We're going to be talking about Qualcomm's latest modem and how that's going to supercharge your phone's connection speed, your future phone, maybe not the one that you have today, but in the near future, and how basically you don't really need 5G yet. We've got 4G's getting pretty fast on its own. We'll also be talking about cryptocurrency and why criminals are in love with it. And lastly, we're going to talk about a Magic Leap scoop from our colleague Joan Salzman out of the Code Conference. So, without further ado, if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. Brian will pick out the best, and we will get to them in 3 minutes and 59 seconds.
From 3, 2...
Welcome to the 359. I'm Roger Cheng.
I'm Alfred Ing.
Can't wait for 5G? Well, Qualcomm may have the next best thing. It just unveiled its X24 LTE modem, and that's a wonky term for a modem that promises 2 gigabits per second of speed. Just to frame a reference, that's twice as fast as the fastest possible speed you can get from home internet service, and would allow you to download a 7 gig Ultra HD Netflix video in 28 seconds. So pretty fast.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be downloading a ton of stuff from Netflix now because of this. I mean, realistically though, assuming that I have this modem, but like my provider's speed isn't fast enough, like what's the point?
Yeah, so that's definitely a great point. These are theoretical peak speeds. The more realistic speeds you'll get are closer to 200 to 600 megs. Still very, very fast.
Yeah, sorry to be a downer here.
No, it's an excellent point to bring up. This chip doesn't come out, or this modem doesn't come out around 2019. At that point, the thinking is that the carriers will upgrade their networks, so your speeds will get significantly faster. I don't know if it'll get up to those speeds everywhere, but in select pockets, and they're going to start rolling it out more broadly, it'll actually get that fast. Not 2 gigabits. We're talking 200, 600
I think the
megs,
more
though.
important question is, though, will it get to a speed where I can mine for cryptocurrency like efficiently?
Pretty much, yeah, man. I
think they should be selling that up then.
That
Forget
should
Netflix.
be the service.
Forget Netflix on
That
this.
is an excellent segue to our next piece on cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and why they're so attractive to criminals. Alfred, you broke down the story. What is it that's so appealing to
criminals love cryptocurrency. The biggest appeal of it is that it's not tied to your bank account. Like we had mentioned on previous of these podcasts, you know, blockchain is essentially decentralized. There's no like bank or anything like that.
Yep.
So it's hard to follow a paper trail. I have read this one story where essentially in these like divorce cases, a lot of people were putting their money into like Bitcoin and their cryptocurrency wallets so that the lawyers couldn't track it down for like alimony or anything like that.
Oh, wow.
Which is insane. But yeah, I mean, that happens in a lot of like cybercrime too. So like a lot of these drugs that people are buying online or a lot of malware that people are buying online, all of that has to do, like you have to pay for that in some way. And a lot of them, they do it with cryptocurrency. So that's like essentially been like their way of moving around. And
now Bitcoin is like too popular for criminals, right?
Yeah, essentially, you know, with Bitcoin, it's not as simple as like I give you money, here you have it kind of thing, like an immediacy thing. It takes a bit of processing time. That's why there's all these miners out there.
Yep.
And because Bitcoin is so popular, it's gotten to the point where like some days you'll have to wait like 4 days to get your money.
Oh, wow.
And if you're a criminal, like that's a lot of time to wait. And essentially, you know, sometimes people will do these scams where like I send you the money, but because it takes 4 days, you ship me the product and I'll already retract it back to my wallet before it like gets to you. So people are like really concerned about that too.
All right, plenty of risks. Lastly, we want to talk about this scoop from Joan Salzman out of the Code Conference. Magic Leap. It's a startup you may not have heard of, but it's really buzzy. Companies like Google and Qualcomm invest in it. It's got this crazy mixed reality headset that no one's really tried yet, but everyone seems to be super excited about. They told Joan exclusively that they are working to partner with a major telco later this year. Now that's significant because they're about to launch their first headset, but they're already talking about how subsequent generations, or hinting at least, the subsequent generations might have cellular connection, so you can go out on your own.
I really want to see what Magic Leap has to offer, and I think partnering with a major telco is like a great move because it gets a lot of eyes on it.
Yep.
But at the same time, it's just like this feels like the Duke Nukem Forever of like VR, whereas like they've partnered with like they had Shaquille O'Neal at the Code Conference
Yep.
like wearing their set. They
Yep.
had like Beyonce use it and all this stuff. But it's just like, what do they actually do?
Yes, there's no. We haven't really seen a real product. I mean, there have been some minor tests here and there. Some select individuals have tried it, but yeah, I'm really eager to see what happens with it. So, for those stories and more, check us out on CNET. I'm Roger Cheng.
I'm Alfred Eng.
Thanks for listening.
And it's time to go ahead and jump back into the chat. I'm going to dig out some good questions and comments. In the meantime, you can talk amongst yourselves. I liked your Duke Nukem analogy. I thought that was deadly accurate.
It's gonna get to a point where like there's all this hype for it, and when it actually comes out, it's like, it's just.
I know, and like the vision he laid out was amazing. Like the idea that this partnership with the NBA, like eventually you wear these headsets and you'll be able to see this miniaturized stadium with players running around. You'll see 7 virtual screens around you showing the action on different displays, different camera angles, holographic projections. There was all this stuff, and he's like, yeah, this will happen in 2 years, this will happen in 5 years. But like, yeah, we haven't seen an actual product
They're the
yet.
only people the only company that I've seen that could get momentum from Beyonce and not go anywhere with it.
You know what? There's plenty of hype, and there's a lot of big important backers behind it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So that's why you can't really write it off because it's just, there are a lot of people invested
Yeah,
in this.
maybe I'm just very cynical.
Well, you are a cynical person.
This is
Alfred.
true. This is
So-
true. This is why I am great in the tech world.
Well, no, look, and I do think it's a good step in the right direction if they do cement a deal with a major telco. That usually implies they've got an actual product that they're willing
Yeah.
to sell, and that the telcos aren't just going to sign a deal for nothing,
Mhm.
for just vaporware. So hopefully that means we'll get to see it
Yeah.
soon. They're already talking about the Magic Leap 1 will be coming out later this year. They said it's going to be the price of a premium computer. This is a standalone headset.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. The cheap.
And the thing is,
the cheap Alfred's
the-
like,
the-
nah, I'm not buying this.
the
thing."
price of a premium computer would definitely change by the time it comes out too.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I like that Imagine Sagi has thrown us a good analogy for the hype train. Is all I could think of is IT 2.0, where there was so much hype for the Segway before we knew what it was.
Oh, it. That's right. What was the nickname for the? Wasn't there like a nickname for it
What do you mean?
for the Segway?
The scooter?
Yeah.
I thought it was always just called Segway.
No. Like before we knew what it was.
Oh, I have no idea. I don't
Remember
recall
there
that.
was like a
That's
random
like way
code
before
name.
my
Well, I
time.
mean, they
man.
all have like manufacturing names. Like the GameCube was the Dolphin, and you
Right.
know, they're just trying to hide the hype. I guess they're just like in production mode.
Yes.
Matthew Datcher is kicking us off with
Hey,
our
Datch.
with our first great question. Any speculation on how much the carriers will charge for 5G?
Oh, for 5G. No. More.
Really?
Oh,
You
well,
think it'll be more?
Well, here's the sad thing. Like, it is actually going to be cheaper for them to deliver services to you. But at least one carrier, Sprint, has already gone on the record and said that they see 5G as an opportunity to raise prices.
Jerks.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, they have the lowest prices in the industry, and they've been really aggressive in trying to get people to come
How
over to
much?
Sprint.
How much was the price jump going from like 3G to LTE when like that was available?
That's a great question.
Because I thought
don't
that
have a
I
good
thought
answer.
I was under the impression, as a person that's never paid a phone bill, I was under the impression that the price stayed the same because
It did stay roughly
yeah.
the same. I mean, what happened was when LTE became broadly available, I think
like
net-
everyone
net-
had it.
the
Yeah.
network plans started changing, right? That was still around the shift of
You couldn't have unlimited data
yeah,
anymore.
going away from unlimited. So there was definitely that kind of that dynamic going on. So I don't know. We'll see if the other carriers follow suit. But at least Sprint has said that they kind of see it as an opportunity to
So
raise prices.
yeah, so we always use like downloading a Netflix movie as like a metric for like
Yeah.
the speed, right? So you were saying with this you'd be or with 5G you can get like a gig movie, like an hour-long movie in what, like 2
in
seconds?
seconds. Yeah.
Okay. How fast is it right now in LTE? Like 10 seconds?
No. I mean, it's probably a couple minutes.
Really?
Well, it depends on the movie, right? Like
Yeah.
the example I gave was a 7 gig Ultra HD movie,
Okay,
like the
okay.
super highest possible
Mhm.
movie. I mean, that could take half an hour.
Every
to an
every
hour.
time like we bring up this scenario though with
Yeah.
like 5G, I'm just thinking like what kind of maniac is out there just like I'm getting this and I'm getting this and I'm getting
Well, I mean, the thing of it is like and I don't know if it would actually work theoretically. Is like
Alfred, they're called millennials.
But you could use your phone as a theoretical hotspot, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden you can power
That's
everything
like the
in your
better
home,
scenario
right?
for me, not
Right.
the like.
I mean, look,
it's just easier to paint
we
a photo.
use
Yeah.
we use these examples to kind of paint the picture of how fast 5G is.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's like going out there
Yeah.
downloading everything on Netflix. I mean, I think the example I gave for a long time was like downloading the entire catalog of the Simpsons
Mhm.
show in like half an hour,
Yeah.
40 minutes. I mean, that's kind of insane, right?
Yeah.
But it gives you a good picture of how fast it is.
Yeah.
Not that you're necessarily going to download the entire season or series, but you know, it's good. It's a good way to
Yeah.
show how fast it goes.
Let's talk about 5G versus 4G. Elephant in the room. Scott Maya is a man after my own heart with the curmudgeon-y questions at hand.
I love it.
Surely the network should concentrate on 4G full coverage before working on 5G.
Yes, that is an excellent point. I think what missing in all the hype about 5G is these carriers are still going to continue to invest in 4G and LTE in particular. That's why you have announcements like this X24 modem. This is an LTE modem, not a 5G modem, to be clear. And so this really shows that carriers, the chip makers, everyone is still invested in 4G. There's, I think T-Mobile CTO just said that they're going to be investing in LTE through the next decade.
Yeah, but if your modem is like, even if your modem's really fast, if I'm in a rural region that doesn't get it, then what's the point? I think that's kind of what what his question is, though. Like, how about expanding this network to everywhere?
So that is happening. Some of the carriers are doing. T-Mobile has invested in expanding coverage. I mean, they notoriously were really good in big cities, not so much elsewhere. They've acquired spectrum. They've got this what's known as the 600 megahertz spectrum. That is a lot wider coverage, so they're promising a lot better coverage in areas where they traditionally haven't had coverage. So those are new areas. The carriers are still investing in improving current coverage, but right now there's a lot of excitement over 5G, which is why we keep talking about it.
Question from Jiffer. Do you think that once 5G hits mainstream, they'll just give out free phones to everybody?
No.
Okay, he references how kind of like Amazon did with the cheap tablets, but tons and tons of ads in them just for the sake of the data collection.
I mean, I imagine some companies potentially doing that.
You're never gonna get a free iPhone from Apple.
Yeah,
Because
that's the
5G
thing.
is
Like,
out.
they're like
iPhone aside.
there might be.
Really?
Wow, Alfred.
sorry, dude.
Really?
Jeez, so millennial.
We've been doing this show for almost 2 years
Oh
now.
my God.
And that just happened.
That was
It's
the
the
first
5G
time that
polarity.
first
happened.
time.
I know. That was
Stop
that was,
talking about
the
us.
5G guys are like, stop talking about 4G. It's all about 5G, damn it.
Anyways, back to the question at hand.
I forgot what the question was.
The question was about
The free phones.
giving away free
Oh.
phones. We know Apple's never going to
So, you're
participate,
right.
but what about other carriers?
Apple's never going to do it. I mean, there's an argument that you can make for Amazon potentially doing this, although they've gotten burned, no pun intended, by the Fire Phone. So maybe they're a little gun shy from going back into the handset business. You can see companies doing it. I mean, Amazon was offering those Amazon exclusive phones from the likes of
If they did do
that were discounted, but they had ads.
yeah.
So that's
Moto
already that
G
exists.
does that,
Right.
yeah, off Amazon.
Right.
If they did do it, it would be like budget phones like the Moto G and all
Yes,
that stuff. It wouldn't be like
absolutely.
a top of the line
Because
premium.
people aren't gonna, especially people who are buying an iPhone 10, are not gonna want to
Yeah.
buy a phone with ads.
They're not gonna give away a phone like a premium like $1,000 phone for something that they know people are gonna buy anyway just for the
Right.
sake of like collecting ad.
And also 5G,
data.
the early 5G phones are gonna be expensive and wonky. It's not.
Yeah.
If they're gonna do it, it'll be with a 4G phone, like a cheap 4G phone.
You know what I miss? When you could upgrade to the free baseline model without actually having to invest anything, like when you're
Oh yeah, they always had the free phone offer.
there was always
What,
that's
like-
what I always did,
right.
and you can't do that anymore.
Really?
The good old days
What,
of
was
like
you
3
bumped
years
up
ago.
at like every 2 years or something?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that?
Yeah,
would
they would
You
just
can't
give
do
you
that anymore?
No,
not really.
At least not for me on AT&T. And
Well, the thing of it is your service price technically can be cheaper though. Like they change the dynamics around, but you can find a way to save money. You'll have a crappier, you have a crappy old phone, but like
I just miss the lazy exchange where I'd just be
yeah.
like, that one.
granted, but that was a time when like really feature phones. It wasn't really all about smartphones. You didn't have like a baseline smartphone you could trade up to.
No, but I would gladly get last year's model because it would be free.
Yeah.
And, anyways. Welcome to the show. Jules Ketchup, first time catching a live show. Nice to have you.
Heyo.
A Dog asks, I never get tired of saying that.
A dog.
What would be the latency of a 5G network?
Ooh, that is an excellent question. They're promising a latency of, I believe, 0.2 milliseconds. And I don't know what the LTE latency is, but it's a lot more. It's like 10 milliseconds. I mean, basically, it's a pretty large difference. It's almost they're saying it's near real time, which seems like it's obvious, but our networks now aren't real time at all. There's a huge lag between when you click the button on your phone and it goes to the network and asks for a website and it comes back. So with 5G, the latency is so low that theoretically, like as soon as you hit a button on or hit click on a link for a website, like it'll pop up immediately.
Do you think that with something like that online gaming would be really changed, like MMOs that are like
Yep.
actually mobile, like I can play World of Warcraft like
Yes.
out here on my phone?
Zero lag.
Mhm.
You actually would have a competitive advantage.
Wow.
Interesting.
And I mean, the bigger thing with latency is, the big example always given is self-driving cars, right? That absolutely need to have real-time awareness of everything around it. And 5G, that's why 5G is sort of the foundation.
Forget about the cars, man.
It's all about gaming.
I'm trying to play Pokemon
All right.
on my phone.
All right. All these billions of dollars getting invested so Alfred can get his Pokemon on.
Question from Josh Boyda. When carriers switch to 5G, will LTE become like 3G in rural areas?
No, I mean LTE for a long time. I mean, it's not like when Verizon or at&t switches on the 5G network, they switch off the LTE network. That thing's gonna be running for a while. I guess the analogy is somewhat. It'll be somewhat more accurate as 5G starts to mature. I think 3G or LTE gets kind of pushed to the background. It becomes more of a foundational network. But that's gonna be a while. For a while, those two are gonna coexist. And it has to, because like 5G, the way it's structured, sometimes the range isn't that great, so you'll need LTE as that kind of baseline connection for a long time.
Sure, absolutely. Imagine Sagi, when will the unlimited 5G actually come to fruition?
Ooh, I mean, we've got technically
Speculate.
unlimited. We have technically unlimited plans now, so it wouldn't surprise me if they start things off with unlimited plans and then see where it goes. A lot of it is we're not sure what kind of applications are going to be running on 5G to take up the kind of traffic that LTE kind of has to deal with now. So I'd imagine like right off the bat you'll see unlimited plans on 5G. I mean it's a lot cheaper for the carriers to deliver that service to you. So maybe I'm just being idealistic, but I'm hoping for unlimited right off the bat.
And who do you think is going to be testing this, like the Petri dish for this first? Like what country is going to get it first? To answer Aki's question.
I mean, I think Korea has it now. They have an early version of 5G in like very, very limited, basically for the Olympics. Like
It's only for the Olympics?
It's like super limited to like, hey, I can make a phone call or whatever with 5G. I think Korea, Japan, and the U.S. are sort of the ones leading the way with 5G. And you'll see some version of 5G later this year with Verizon as a sort of a home broadband replacement, and at&t says it's going to launch 5G as a mobile service in 12 markets later this year.
All right. A couple more before we call it a day. Scott Myatt, do you think mobile networks will ever replace hardwire Wi-Fi?
Ooh.
I kind of hope so.
I have my doubts and I have my concerns.
That is the promise of 5G, that it'll theoretically make Wi-Fi less critical in your home because it's ubiquitous, it's fast, it's cheap to provide, and it's more secure.
Yep.
But I mean, that's going to take a while. 5G networks, it's going to take years for this thing to build out and be like broadly available. So I wouldn't hold my breath that we'd lose Wi-Fi anytime soon. And in terms of like an actual physical broadband connection, we're going to need that for a little while too.
Do you think that's going to result in who was it? They were experimenting with Wi-Fi with like blimps, right? Or like data through blimps.
Google.
The
and
balloon.
Where
and
did that take
Facebook
place
was
again?
doing it
like
too.
in Africa.
Yeah.
Facebook was doing it
as
in
well.
South America with like this
Yeah.
like giant plane too. They
Yes.
called it a key.
It wasn't
Aquila.
Wi-Fi though; they were broadcasting cell signals, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, data. Yeah, data.
Yeah, they were basically like a portable moving cell tower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you think that's going to be like the future of the landscape
They'll
across?
just have drones everywhere broadcasting
God, what a
cell towers.
terrible-
like in Batman, there's just blimps floating through the cities
Oh,
all over the place.
yeah.
It's kind of gnarly and gothic.
What a
I
terrible
hope not.
future.
Yeah, that sounds kind of grim, just like everywhere you're seeing.
Only because these blimps wouldn't
Then they
be,
don't have to put cameras in everything because there's always a camera watching from the sky.
That's
like the
right.
blimps wouldn't be like
so scary.
in Batman though, like dreary and like dark and stuff. It'd just be like these blimps are like sponsored by Google, like just in your sky all the time. You'd never
And
get a view.
it wouldn't be dark though.
Listen,
it
I
would
think-
be like
I
very
don't-
colorful because all the blimps are colorful.
I think that would be an efficient way to get a lot of birds with one stone. You know, that's ad space up there.
that is that space. Yeah.
It's brother eye in the sky,
Right.
watching every move you make. You
It's
know?
like a Goodyear blimp, except the only message is like
Obey.
The Wi-Fi password is like
A dog has kind of a branching question off of this. Do you think ISP will stop supporting hardline internet?
Oh, that's a really good question. I don't know. I feel like there's a dependability to hardline connections that just makes it kind of indispensable. Wireless can get knocked out pretty easily, right? So
I don't see a reason for them to stop supporting it.
the only reason is that it's expensive.
Mm-hmm.
It's harder and more expensive and requires more people to maintain a physical network.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of building out new networks, that's really tough, right? Because like digging up, sidewalks and putting in cables, that's expensive and that's hard. That's why these companies are really looking to wireless. I mean, Google basically with Google Fiber, right? They've kind of like completely stopped trying to build out physical networks and like investing in mostly Wi-Fi or wireless stuff.
Yeah, right. A couple to change things up before we call it a day. Jiffer, do you think more companies like the big three will lock down all phones like Verizon just did? I see all those phones being the same. They do the same thing. Do you think carriers are going to stop secondhand sales altogether?
I mean, look, the truth of it
I'm
is,
sure it's on their minds now.
The other carriers already locked their phones, and they already have waiting periods. What Verizon's did basically, and you could argue that they're reneging on their commitment to keeping phones unlocked.
Mm-hmm.
They're arguing that they're doing this to combat thievery. Verizon's basically joined the ranks and putting in a policy that's consistent with what the rest of the industry is doing. So I don't see the other companies looking to like push that even further.
Right.
I think it's more Verizon just sort of getting in line with everyone else, even though it's a bit of a controversial move. I've noticed like the folks like at T-Mobile and like the other carriers have been pretty quiet about this whole thing. So I think they've seen the reaction to the move by consumers and they just don't want to be part of this.
Right. Okay, one more before the end of the show. Datcher asks, when will Bitcoin mining collapse a national power grid?
All right, Alfred.
Well,
all
yeah,
you
it'd
got.
have to be all focused in one area. And the thing about it is, it's I think if everyone were mining within like one neighborhood in like New York or something like that, it would probably
Bring
happen.
down, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
but
I read somewhere that like Iceland, crypto mining is so popular, like they're gonna run out of power eventually.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that article. I think it was from the Washington Post.
Yeah.
Just essentially
Yeah.
about, it takes up a lot of energy. Imagine like your computer running at like its full processor like
All
the
the time.
time.
Constantly, yeah.
Yeah, and people buy like very expensive computers for this. That's why a lot of people don't mine on their own because because the money that you make from it will eventually end up like costing you more. Like your
The
electric
hardware.
your electric bill will cost you more than the money that you make. Like all of cryptocurrency, like all these like mining machines, like take up the entire energy of like the nation of Singapore.
Right.
Which is
That's insane.
Yeah. I think in Stephen Shanklin's article, it talks about how it could power like thousands of homes in a day,
Yep.
like if they did that instead. But the thing is, it's like spread out across the world, so it's not
Right.
all these machines are like hampering down on one network, unless maybe Iceland has like a lot of miners there or something.
Yeah,
like that.
I guess if like geographically you've got a lot of
Yeah.
crypto miners all just huddled together.
That's why a lot of companies, not a lot of companies, sorry, a lot of like cryptocurrency miners are actually using like botnets. They're using like other people's machines
Yeah.
that they've like
Because it's easier to just use
Yeah.
somebody else's stuff.
Yeah,
right?
they essentially like install malware on stuff, and botnets used to be used for like DDoS attacks, which would like take
Right.
down a website. But now it's just like, why are we gonna do that? We can just mine for that money instead.
And there's a cool term for it, right?
crypto jacking.
I love it. Someone was paid a lot of money for the branding
Yeah.
of that. Crypto jacking just sounds pretty cool.
I read about this research 2 days ago called it's drive-by crypto jacking. Where
Nice.
I mean, this comes from like another like security term called war driving, where you
Yep.
drive around with like a Wi-Fi network on you, and you try to get people to automatically connect to it.
Right.
But in this scenario, when you automatically connect to it, it
Like loads up software.
loads up this screen that's like a capture screen that's basically like enter this code to prove you're not a bot.
Right.
If you want to connect to our Wi-Fi, and people just enter the code in. But every second that you're not entering the code, your processor on your phone
Is being used.
is like at like its max percentage.
Nice.
I have this
and
terrible
it's like mining for them.
I have this terrible image in my head of like somebody dressed up like the Hamburglar running around with like a 5G hotspot and a big battery and like a barcode scanner that you see in the grocery store, just sneaking up the people and like their wallets and just
I have your cryptocurrency now.
crypto jacked and then runs off.
Crypto Jack is actually my new space pirate name. So
I was just
I
gonna
like
say
it.
this needs to be like a Sunday morning comic or something like that. The
But-
Crypto Jacker.
By the way, if you want to learn more about cryptojacking, Bridget Carey has a great video that's in Alfred's story. If you check
Yes,
it out,
that just went up today. As always, the links are going to be
it's
in
a
the description.
fantastic parody of an infomercial, very entertaining and educational at the same time. Which it's a weird
what
combination.
CNET tries
And
to be.
I helped.
There you go, Brian. Yes, Brian did. You played a critical role in that video.
Hold camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the disclaimer at the end.
Oh yeah, that's
That was
my
you,
voice.
man.
That was fun. I just hear me out for a second. I have another image running through my head. My imagination's on fire today. So we're talking about collapsing the national grid and like collaboration and aggregation of all of the crypto jackers into one place. Imagine if they pooled their cryptocurrency, bought an island out somewhere
That's
in the middle
actually
of the sea.
happened.
Well, and then they get they self-fund a data blimp, right? And then they set up a solar farm, and then they it becomes its own like nation state, and then like the world collapses around them, and that is the next season of Black Mirror.
So there's
Ooh.
there's an interesting New York Times article about these folks, these like cryptocurrency billionaires, that bought like a ton of land in Puerto Rico that they're calling Cryptopia.
Oh my
It's
god,
awful.
It's already happened. All right, hey, we gotta go. Actually, time's up. So, you want to take us out, Brian?
Me?
Well, do you want to play the music?
Oh yeah, sure.
All
We're still
right.
streaming.
I'm so shocked.
We are still streaming. If you liked anything you saw or heard here, excuse Brian's craziness. But check out our podcast on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, FeedBurner, Google Play Music, Amazon Echo, and of course, CNET.com.
Thanks everybody. See you tomorrow.
ya.
See you tomorrow.